A doctor in a formal arrangement until I saw you. Now that was a long time afterwards. That was 8 or 9 or 10 years
you were
later.
22 years of age. What was the approach that I took with you that eventuated in your recovery from stuttering?
Well,
you recovered from
yes, I would say I have. I have my moments. I have my tired days. It's a habit. Again, it's a physical habit that I ingrained in my subconscious mind that may never go away. I've got a scar, but it's only a scar. And it only appears on, again, on days when I'm overtired or whatnot. I pretty much can work my way out of it, however. It was a twofold approach. I credit yourself and myself. Number one, I was a little bit older and perhaps prepared to deal with it. I basically had it. I'd had enough of it, and I was ready to drop that thing like a hot potato. Really, I think the key is what you told me, is that there isn't anything wrong with me. That what I've got I can shed like this.
That's
Just
right.
say the word.
That's right.
Every other doctor was, well, I think his problem is this, and I think his problem. Suddenly I had a problem, a real problem. You basically said, this is really very easy.
It is.
And you explained to me that everybody has disfluencies.
Bobbles.
And they bobbles.
We repeat, we hesitate,
they stammer, they stutter.
And we go, and we say what we don't want to say. We are filled with the bobbles, all of us.
You made me recognize that it's my quest for a perfect speech pattern that made me block. I was not a nervous stutterer, in that kind of sense, but I blocked that.
Blocking is an attempt
to force it out just right.
Just right.
It's like a feedback loop in your brain. You're monitoring your speech too closely, and
before you say
it, it's almost like a cramp in a sense.
It's a cramping of the muscles.
In a way, it isn't actually a cramping. It's more like a cramping in your mind.
Well, it is. It's a crimping and a cramping because you begin to anticipate before you say the sound.
Exactly.
And your body goes tense.
Exactly.
You go tense. The tongue preforms. It's up in the roof of your mouth. You can't talk that way. So you become abnormal, and your speech is worse because of your desire to be perfect.
Exactly.
What changed you? What moved you from stuttering to the rest of us?
It was the the rest of us.
The rest of us.
It was the examples that it was the illustrations that you gave me. It was the voices that you impersonated of Kissinger and Sadat and people. And you said, look and listen to some people, and you'll see that they bobble. And then basically you forced me, you demanded that I incorporate bobbles. And it was tough at first. You're telling a stutterer to stutter. I mean, you talk about holy cow.
I didn't say to a stutterer to stutter.
Well, no, you didn't say in those
bobble.
words.
I wanted the stutterer to bobble. The stutterer is like everybody else. In my view, there is no neurological, there is no gene difference, no blood difference, no factor X. It is the way you are thinking of your speech that makes you stutter. You want to be perfect, and I want you to bobble.
So you told me that a bobble is good.
That's right.
And when I began to discover in experimenting in your office and in our therapy that, in fact, the bobble tended to kind of loosen the knot, and relax me, that was basically the key. I would have to say that was like a revelation, like a light from the heavens. And it took a lot of practice. I saw you for 6 months, then I couldn't afford it anymore. But I continued to use what you taught me, and with a lot of practice, it began to take hold. I mean, basically, you planted the seed, and it just finally took care of itself.
I want to say something which you forget, which I find hilarious. When you began to bobble or repeat, or hesitate, you wanted to do it perfectly. You wanted to develop a perfect bobble.
Well, I don't know about that. Obviously, I monitored myself still. There's no way just to shut off the lights and become a normal speaker. So you're paying close attention to the baubles. And I was handling them very gingerly. I did want them in the right places and so forth, but you have to start somewhere. I began to realize then that by just by loosening up, by allowing the disfluencies to happen, that the speech began to flow out. And you also showed me in the examples that, in the illustrations that you gave me, that those baubles are completely unnoticeable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't notice that in a person's speech. You notice the intense,
the tension,
cramping,
or the anxiety, but you don't notice the baubles.
The baubles you don't notice.
We never notice what I just did, or Ronald Reagan's baubles, or Henry Kissinger's baubles, or anybody's baubles.
You know what I don't like, though? Make a complaint. It's when you see these guys like Johnny Carson, these great speakers on TV, these really terrific guys, or a radio guy, a DJ. I mean, now these guys are professional speakers. Now, perhaps one of the problems is that in the TV generation, I modeled my speech and so forth after these stellar examples, which are not, your everyday real-life examples. These people, when they bauble, it's like, big drum roll, and everybody laughs. It's like these guys never make a mistake, or they're completely self-effacing, like, oh, I can't talk today. And it makes me mad, because they make a big thing out of their baubles.
They allow themselves the baubles. They think it's funny. They pass it off. You go, You don't react to that anymore. When you stuttered, you never went, You went, It was a spastic type of speech
It
pattern.
affected my breathing, everything.
Everything
I
went
used all of everything I had in my physical self to try to control and overcome the stuttering. My breathing, and I'm sure my neck got tense, and my jaw, and the whole thing.
You preformed. Preform means that you anticipated that the word may not come out. You held your breath. You did everything that made it become a reality that you would stutter. And I tried to revise your image. The key to getting you out of stuttering, or anybody, is change the image of what normal speech is about. All stutterers, in all the years of 30 years of practice, I have never run into a stutterer who did not say in one way or the other, normal speech is perfect. And that's why they stutter. They think that radio announcers and Johnny Carson types are all perfect. They are not. And they bobble all over the place, as I do. There's an interesting story that happened sometime when you were recovering, and I felt that you were well on your way to recovery. Somebody from your family called, your father, and he wondered why I felt you were recovering when you had bobbles.
Well, there
and
you go.
He said that when you were a small kid, he wanted to take those bobbles out of your speech pattern, because when he was going to school as a college debater, they took the ums and hesitation, the vocal sides, out of his speech pattern. He didn't realize that as a kid you couldn't do that. That's vocal play. It's very normal at a certain stage. And that you got the bobbles back, and you lost the fear of speech, and you became like one of us, normal, with bobbling like everybody else does.
And in fact, I had an experience about a year ago, speaking in front of a crowd, an angry crowd. I'm in real estate, and I managed a shopping center, and the tenants at this one shopping center were very angry. Things were getting very expensive for them and so forth, and I had to speak to a Merchants Association meeting, and I had every reason in the world to be nervous, and it was the first time I'd really had a prepared speech, for a group of people like this, and way in the back of my mind was the fear of, will I fall apart? But I just said, enjoy yourself, go up there and have fun. And I was flawless. And I was, I'm